Hello all. Today we will be talking about the module under the subject Physiological Biophysics. The module will be module on ultrasonography, principles and diagnostic applications. I am Dr. Shival Srivastav. I am a senior resident at the Department of Physiology, All India Institute of Medical Sciences, New Delhi. So in this present module, there are some learning objectives. That is, at the end of this module, there are few things you should go home with. The learning objectives are that at the end of the module, you should be able to explain what is the meaning of the term ultrasound and ultrasonography. Also, you should be able to explain how ultrasound waves are produced, what is the physics behind them. Then you should be able to enumerate the diagnostic and therapeutic uses of ultrasound. Also, you should be able to list the advantages and disadvantages of this technique. So let us begin our introduction. In this slide, we can see the ultrasound machine which is mounted on a trolley. This is one of the commercially available systems that are there in the market. Now, ultrasound is a very commonly used imaging technique. In addition to ultrasound, there are many other imaging techniques such as computerized tomography scan, known as CT scan, magnetic resonance imaging, commonly known as MRI scan, and positron tomography emission scan, also known as PET scan. Now, the advantage with using ultrasound is that it has both diagnostic as well as therapeutic applications. What do we mean by the term diagnostic is that the technique can help us to know what disorder or what disease the patient is suffering from. Also, ultrasound has therapeutic effect. That is, it can be used as a treatment modality. Like we prescribe medicine for different disorders to patients, we can also give ultrasound in different disorders. The technique helps us to visualize soft tissues of the body. Also, since it consists of sound waves, it also leads to heating. Why? We will discuss under the heading of physics of sound waves. This heating effect may be helpful in relieving pain in different disorders such as trauma, inflammation, swelling, etc. In the present module, we will be talking about the basic physics of sound waves, basic physics of ultrasound waves, and different diagnostic applications. There are two abbreviations that I will consistently use in this module, USG and US, which stand for ultrasonography and ultrasound respectively. Now we will start our discussion with the basic physics of sound waves. Now all of us may have read in class 10th physics that sound wave is essentially a pressure wave. For production of sound wave, there is requirement of a source. What the source does is, it sets the medium into motion. Now the medium is set in motion in such a way that there are alternate compression and rarefaction waves that are produced in the medium. This alternate compression and rarefaction constitute the pressure wave which travels and is perceived by us as sound. As important to know is that we should know that there should be a source for production of sound wave. Also, there should be a medium for propagation. Why? Because the sound source sets the molecules or the particles of medium into motion. If there are no particles or no molecules in the medium, that is, if the medium is vacuum, sound waves cannot travel. Therefore, we need a source, media, which may be solid, liquid, or gas, for production and conduction of sound waves. The figure in this slide shows the schematic representation of alternate compression and rarefaction, which are components of the pressure wave. The closely spaced lines depict the compression waves and the sparsely spaced lines depict the rarefaction wave. Together, these will constitute a sound wave that will travel through a media. Now, the sound waves that are audible to us are of a definitive frequency range. What do we mean by frequency is that the numbers of cycles per second in a wave. The commonly used unit for frequency is hertz, where 1 hertz depicts 1 cycle per second. For the human ear, we cannot perceive sound waves of all the frequency ranges. only the waves between 20 Hz to 20,000 Hz are audible to us, and this frequency range from 20 to 20,000 is known as the auditory frequency range. On the same slide, you can see a diagram of the ear, a cutaway section. We can see the pinna, the ear canal, the eardrum, the different bones of the ear known as the ear ossicles, and the cochlea. Now, whenever the pressure wave reaches our ear, it is directed by the ear into the auditory canal and it strikes the pinna. After traveling through the auditory canal, it strikes the tympanic membrane and sets the ear ossicles into motion, which transduce this pressure wave into auditory signals which are heard by the cochlea and transmitted to the brain. So, let us remember that we can hear only sound waves between 20 Hz to 20,000 Hz. Some animals can listen to sound waves beyond this frequency range. Examples are bats. Bats routinely use ultrasonic waves for navigation, which we will talk about shortly. Now, this is a slide showing bat using ultrasound waves for echolocation or navigation. We can see the bat emitting sound waves which are depicted by blue color. These sound waves are traveling to the environment. Whenever there is an object in the environment or an obstacle in the environment, the sound waves will go, strike that object or obstacle and will be reflected back. These reflected waves can be perceived by the bat in real time, and therefore it can change its direction to avoid that obstacle. If the obstacle is a prey, the bat can go further in that direction and follow the prey and have its food. Now, what do we mean by the term ultrasound is very important. Ultrasound can be broken into ultra and sound. The term ultra tells that the sound frequencies used in ultrasonography can be broken down into two terms, ultra and sound. The term ultra means that the sound waves used in ultrasonography are well beyond the frequency of 20,000 Hz. That is why ultrasound waves are not audible to us in routine settings. Now, ultrasound waves are governed by the same physical laws that govern sound waves. For production of ultrasound, we require a source that will set the molecules into motion. We require a medium whose molecules will be set into motion, and there will be reflection and transmission that will be shown by ultrasound waves. Let us see this figure in this slide. It shows two media. One media is depicted in white color and the other in light orange color. It shows an ultrasound waves which is coming and striking the interface between the two media. When such a wave strikes the interface, some of the waves are reflected while some of them are transmitted. Now, what will govern that how much of the waves will be reflected and how much of the waves will be transmitted are different physical entities which we will discuss in this present module. The physical principle which is underlying the production of ultrasound waves is known as the piezoelectric effect. This piezoelectric effect was discovered by two physicists, Pierre Curie and Jacques Curie, back in the year of 1880. The Curie brothers were working with quartz crystal, and they observed that when the crystal was subjected to deformation, it led to production of a brief electronic pulse. Also, the reverse was also true, that whenever the crystal was subjected to a brief electrical pulse, it showed a deformation. The piezoelectric effect is derived from the Greek word piezein, which means application of pressure. So, in this slide we can see the crystal at the bottom. Whenever there is application of pressure to the crystal, it undergoes deformation, and as soon as it comes back to its original shape, it will lead to emission of a small pulse. Let us talk about this piezoelectric effect in detail. As I talked about earlier, that this effect was discovered in quartz crystals, which have regularly spaced molecule arranged in a lattice or in a definite geometry. Whenever electricity was applied to this crystal, they went into a different shape. This change of shape was a very rapid process. Now, this brief change of shape led to production of sound waves. These quartz crystals are at the heart of ultrasound and are used in ultrasound probes to generate ultrasound waves. Now, as I told you earlier, the reverse was also true. So, as I told you earlier, the reverse was also true. So, whenever these crystals were subjected to a pulse, they led to generation of electricity. So, such crystals are routinely used for ultrasound probe, both for emission of ultrasound waves as well as detection of ultrasound waves. Now, before we proceed further, there are many important terminologies that we should know when talking about ultrasound. These are power, intensity, acoustic impedance and attenuation. Now, what do we mean by power? Power is the amount of acoustic energy per unit time, and it is usually expressed by the unit of watts. Power per unit area can be expressed at watts per centimeter square, the physical term for which is intensity. The power and intensity are important parameters to know in ultrasonography because the same power and intensity is transmitted to the tissues when we are putting in an ultrasound probe. Another important term that we should know is acoustic impedance. Acoustic impedance is the product of velocity of sound and the density of medium. Now, to understand it better, let us break it down into acoustic and impedance. Acoustic means sound and impedance is resistance that is encountered. So, acoustic impedance is the measure of resistance encountered by ultrasound waves when traveling through a medium. Why it is important to know acoustic impedance? Materials with different acoustic impedance will lead to different resistance offered to ultrasound waves and will govern how much of the beam that we are putting in at the surface is finally transmitted to our tissue of interest. Now, this is a table that summarizes the acoustic impedances commonly encountered in ultrasonography. We have different media and the acoustic impedance expressed as a factor of 10 to power 6. Now, as we can see in this table, air has the lowest acoustic impedance, almost close to 0. Fat has an acoustic impedance of 1.5. Bone has an acoustic impedance of 8. Water has an impedance of 1.4, whereas muscle has an acoustic impedance of 1.8. So, if we look at this table carefully, we can see that bone, which is a hard tissue, has a very high acoustic impedance, and therefore it will offer great resistance to the passage of ultrasound waves. Therefore, whenever we are applying an ultrasound probe onto a bone, very little ultrasound will be transmitted into the tissue and the visualization will be very poor. This is the precise reason why hard tissues like bones and enamel of teeth cannot be seen on an ultrasound properly. Then other important terminologies with respect to ultrasound is the attenuation constant. Other important terminology with respect to ultrasound is attenuation constant. Now, let us break down this term. Attenuation means loss of intensity. So, attenuation constant talks about the reduction in intensity of an ultrasound wave when it is traveling through a medium. Again, the attenuation constant is proportional to the distance that the beam will travel. It is also a very important entity to know because this will also tell us how much the beam will be able to penetrate when we are putting it into a tissue. It can help the operator or me and you who are doing ultrasound to adjust the properties of ultrasound while we are performing a study and get a better image. Then another important physical property is Doppler effect. Now, let us revise Doppler effect from our class 10th physics. We know that Doppler effect is the change in frequency of sound that is observed by an observer due to relative motion between the source and the observer. Doppler effect is used in ultrasound setting for estimating blood flow. Now, the question is how? Blood is essentially red cells and white cells which are suspended in plasma and are flowing inside vessels. Now, whenever we apply a sound beam, an ultrasound beam to this media which is flowing into a blood vessel, the velocity of blood with probe will depend upon whether the blood is flowing towards the probe or away from the probe. Therefore, the reflected wave that we will get because of this flow of blood will be different from the wave that we started with. This shift in frequency is responsible for the Doppler shift and can help us deduce whether the blood is flowing towards or away from the probe. Now, in this slide, we have demonstrated the phenomena of Doppler principle using an example of a car and an observer. Now, the car is honking the horn in two situations. Situation 1, when it is approaching the observer, as seen in this slide. Another situation when the car is going away from the observer. Now in both cases, the frequency of the horn, the honking that will be perceived by the observer will be different. Why? Because there is relative motion between the source and the observer. In case 1, the source is moving towards the observer, and in case number 2, the source is moving away from the observer. Therefore, there is a frequency shift that can be perceived as the difference of the frequency of the horn, and this is the heart of the Doppler principle. Now let us start with the performance of ultrasound. How can we do ultrasound if a patient is provided to us? The first and foremost step that is important to performance of ultrasound is the part of informed consent. Informed consent means that we take permission of the patient, the permission of the subject on which a medical procedure is going to be done, explain to him or her how we are going to go about it, the time taken, whether there will be any discomfort, and then obtain a permission. It is very important part of every medical procedure, and same goes with ultrasound. One important aspect that needs to be taken care of is that if a male observer, a male technician is doing ultrasound on a female subject, there should always be a female attendant. Now after we take the informed consent from the subject, the next part is exposure of the subject. Adequate privacy should be provided. Curtain should be made available if they are needed, and the part where ultrasound is going to be done should be exposed properly. After the exposure is done, we apply the probe along with a jelly onto the part where we are going to do ultrasound. What will the jelly do is that it acts as a coupling agent and acts as an interface where the sound beams will start from the ultrasound probe and will travel through the jelly directly into our soft tissue, thus removing any air between the probe and the tissue of interest. This is very helpful because air has a very low attenuation constant, and a presence of air between the probe and the soft tissue which we are trying to see will reduce the quality of the image. After we apply jelly, we apply the probe onto the part where we want to do ultrasound, adjust different parameters of ultrasound such as power, frequency, intensity, and capture our image. Analysis of the image can be done by the operator or by a radiologist. Nowadays, softwares are also available to analyze ultrasound image. So in this slide, we can see the jelly, the ultrasound probe, and there is also a picture of ultrasound being performed by a practitioner. Now the applications of ultrasound are really diverse. They can be broadly clubbed into 2 categories which we talked about in the beginning of the module, which were diagnostic and therapeutical. Diagnostic means doing a diagnosis or finding out the disorder from which the subject is suffering. Therapeutic is treatment modality. We are using ultrasound as a form of treatment to relieve certain pathological condition. Now different diagnostic indications of ultrasound are soft tissue visualization, echocardiography, which is visualization of the heart, the chambers and the valves, Doppler ultrasound, which takes care of using Doppler principle to visualize the vasculature, the flow of blood, fetal imaging, which is use of ultrasound to visualize the fetus inside a womb of a mother and assessing different parameters. Also, ultrasound has research applications, and we can use ultrasound for assessment of endothelial function, which we will talk about briefly. The therapeutic applications of ultrasound are many. We will talk about only a couple. Harmonic scalpel. Ultrasound, when given at a very high frequency and a very high power, may be useful for using it as a scalpel to excise the tissue. The advantage is that the blood loss is minimal, or there is almost no blood loss at all. Harmonic scalpel is commonly used for surgery in endocrinology, such as thyroid. Ultrasound also has another therapeutic application, which is ultrasound based diathermy. Here the ultrasound machine is used to deliver ultrasound pulses at a high power, which lead to heating effect. This heating effect is very useful when we are talking about inflammatory or painful conditions, and here ultrasound finds use as a treatment modality. So the first diagnostic application of ultrasound is soft tissue visualization. Now, soft tissue visualization is the most common reason why we use ultrasound in the clinics. It is used as an investigative modality here, and it can be used to identify and visualize any soft tissue of the body. We commonly use it for seeing abdominal viscera such as liver, kidney, spleen, gallbladder, urinary bladder. Ultrasound probes can also be inserted inside the body, and we can do a transvaginal or a transrectal ultrasound and visualize soft tissues there. In transvaginal ultrasound, the tissues visualized are the uterus, the fallopian tubes and the ovaries, and fetus if any inside the uterus. Transrectal ultrasound helps us to visualize the rectum and the prostate gland, which is located near the neck of the bladder, and the urinary bladder. Now, the advantage of using ultrasound here is that we can visualize these soft tissue structures in real time. We can find the size of these soft tissues, their consistency, if there is any stone inside them that can be visualized, any mass inside them can be visualized, and we can also see for their function in real time. Echocardiography is another important application of ultrasound, where ultrasound beam is used to visualize the heart. Now, echocardiography requires application of ultrasound probe at different sites of the body, which are known as the acoustic windows. By acoustic window, we simply mean that the ultrasound probe is applied on a specific anatomical area. It leads to production of beam in a specific plane and can help see the axis of the heart from different axes. It is like taking a photograph of a soft tissue from the front, from the top, from the back and from the bottom. So, echocardiography, the common windows that are used are suprasternal, that is application of the ultrasound probe above the sternum near the collarbone, and projection of beams in a downward direction. So, we can visualize the heart as if we are looking from the top. Apical, as the name suggests, leads to visualization of ultrasound from the apex of the heart. We apply the probe near the chest wall below the nipples and pass the beam in an upward direction. So, it is as if you are seeing the heart from the apex of the heart. Ultrasound probe can also be placed just lateral to the sternum, which is known as the parasternal window, and it can be placed below the costal margin, projecting the ultrasound beam in upward direction, and it looks like as if we are looking at the heart from the bottom. The different parameters that can be assessed on echocardiography are the size of the different chambers of the heart, the motion of the different heart valves, the different valves of the heart, the aortic, the pulmonary, the mitral and tricuspid. What is the structure of these valves, what is the motion of these valves can be seen. Also, the amount of blood which is there in different chambers of heart at different time points can be visualized. Another application of ultrasound is Doppler ultrasonography. Now, let us have a recap. Doppler ultrasonography relied on Doppler principle, which was the frequency shift because of relative motion between the ultrasound probe and our soft tissue of interest. There are different modalities of Doppler principle that we use in our clinics. One is continuous wave Doppler. By continuous wave Doppler, we mean that we are using a Doppler probe to generate ultrasound beams without any gap. They are applied continuously and they are reflected and detected back in real time by the probe. Continuous wave Doppler, since it requires application of ultrasound beams continuously, leads to heating and therefore is not recommended for prolonged duration, but it is very helpful in capturing an event which is very short, since it is continuous in nature. The alternative for continuous wave ultrasound is pulse wave ultrasound, which is more commonly used now. This consists of application of short pulses of ultrasound that are delivered to the soft tissue, and we get intermittent images of this tissue. The duration of the pulses can be adjusted and their frequency can be varied to get a different frame rate and see the issue as fast as we want to see it. Then another common modality for ultrasound is color flow mode. Now, in color flow mode, we detect whether the blood is flowing toward the probe or away from the probe, and this is given a different color scale. Blood flowing towards the probe is designated as red, and blood flowing away from the probe is designated as blue in color. So color flow mode is used to visualize blood flow. In this slide, we can also see transcranial Doppler and the different acoustic windows that are available to us for clinical examination. One of them is transorbital window, that is placement of the ultrasound probe near the eyeball. The transtemporal window, that is placement of ultrasound probe near the temple on the side of the forehead. And transoccipital window, which is the placement of ultrasound probe at the back of the head near the occipital bone. All of these together can be used to visualize cerebral circulation, anatomically known as the circle of Willis, the different branches of that circle and the velocity and the flow in that different branches. Then another important indication for doing ultrasound is fetal ultrasound. It is commonly done in pregnant females who are undergoing antenatal checkup. The parameters that can be assessed on fetal ultrasound are the number of fetuses, whether the womb has a single fetus or many fetuses, which is known as a singleton or multiple pregnancy. We can see for the fetal parameters in real time, assess fetal movement, assess the beating of fetal heart, and we can comment upon fetal viability, whether the fetal is alive or dead. Also, we can use ultrasound to measure different parameters of the fetus, such as the biparietal diameter, that is the diameter of the head, the height of the fetus from the crown to the rump, which is known as the crown rump length, and different parameters like these can help us establish the gestational age of the fetus, that is how old the fetus is after implantation has taken place in the womb. Also, we can see different fetal organs, therefore we can detect fetal defects at a very early stage, and this gives ultrasound a high diagnostic edge or any other imaging modality. Now, ultrasound, like any imaging technique, is associated with different advantages and disadvantages, and it is good to know them. Advantages of ultrasound can be enumerated as low risk of radiation, availability as a bedside tool, good patient acceptability, low cost, and multiple applications. The cons of ultrasound or the disadvantages of ultrasound are operator dependence and poor resolution with bony tissues. Let us talk about them in a small detail. The advantages of ultrasound: the first advantage is that ultrasound utilizes sound beams. Therefore, there is no risk of ionizing radiations as seen with X-rays and computerized tomography. Use of ionizing radiations upon the patient cells when done repeatedly in a short interval may lead to increased risk of cancers in them, and that is why X-rays or CT scans with very short durations at very short intervals are not recommended routinely. Here, ultrasound has an special advantage because it consists of sound beams that are completely harmless to the soft tissues of the subject. Ultrasound also finds utility as a bedside tool. It means that the machine, because since it is very light and portable, we saw a photo of a machine earlier, the machine can be shifted to the bedside in case of any emergency, and we can do an ultrasound scan anywhere, and we do not need to shift the patient specifically to the X-ray room or the CT room. Then another reason for use of or the advantage of ultrasound is the patient acceptability. Now, ultrasound consists simply of putting a gel, a water-based gel on the patient which can be wiped off easily, and placement of a probe, and is not associated with any pain whatsoever. Therefore, it is very or highly acceptable to the patients and can be done easily in any age group. Then another advantage of ultrasound is the low cost. Ultrasound machines are not that costly. Also, the running cost is very low, and therefore it gives it edge over costly investigations such as MRI scan or PET scan. Then we have already talked about the diverse applications of ultrasound. Ultrasounds can be used to identify and visualize any soft tissue, and therefore it is really helpful as a diagnostic tool. There are some disadvantages of ultrasound also, which exist with any imaging technique. Two of them are operator dependence and poor visualization of heart tissues. By operator dependence, we mean that the interpretation of ultrasound after the film has been captured, after the image has been captured, depends upon the skill of the operator, the radiologist or the physician or the technician who is doing the ultrasound. Now, since ultrasound requires estimation of different parameters, which is size of viscera, say the size of heart chambers, the amount of blood, it requires high amount of practice and skill before one can actually become an expert with ultrasound, and therefore the ultrasound modality is limited by the skills of the examiner. Then we talked about attenuation constant earlier, and we discussed that ultrasound is poor for bony tissues and enamel, and also with air filled cavities, since the attenuation constant is quite different. Therefore, ultrasound can be used only to visualize soft tissues and not for hard tissues like bone. So, to wind up our discussion today, we talked about ultrasound, how are ultrasound beams produced, the piezoelectric effect. Then we saw that ultrasound beams are governed by the same physical laws as sound waves. Also, we discussed the different parts of the machine and the procedure, the jelly, the probe, proper consent, exposure and performance of the procedure. Then we also talked about the different diagnostic and therapeutic indications of ultrasound, which were soft tissue visualization, visualization of fetus inside the womb of the mother, visualization of heart, which was echocardiography, transcranial Doppler, which was used to visualize blood flow, and therapeutic applications were enumerated, which were harmonic scalpel and ultrasound based diathermy. Thank you so much.